everyone. Welcome back to Reddit Affair Diaries. How's your day going so far? I hope it's been great, but if not, don't stress, you're in the perfect spot to relax and dive into some juicy relationship stories. There's always something new and unexpected waiting around the corner here. Before we jump in, leave a comment and share something good from your day. Let's keep the good vibes going and start this story together.
This Reddit story is from the r/breakup subreddit, where the OP's fiancé ended their relationship after 13 years. What should the OP do now?
The day I watched him walk away from me, a part of my life seemed to unravel all at once. For 13 years, he had been my everything, my friend, my confidant, my future husband. Our journey had felt unshakable, like a tree that we had watered and grown together, its roots deep in the soil of our shared life. When he said he didn't feel in love with me anymore, something broke that I couldn't quite name. It was as though the life I had imagined for us, the home, the dog, even our upcoming wedding, vanished like a mirage. It had started slowly, a quiet shift I tried to ignore, then rationalize. Arguments came up, sure, but they weren't catastrophic. Couples fight, I'd tell myself. But somewhere along the line, the joy in our relationship had begun to fade. When we went on holiday, I could feel the distance as a quiet ache in the background, a nagging feeling that I pushed away, determined to believe that we were okay. But then, as I looked at him across the dinner table in some picturesque restaurant, I couldn't shake the sense that he was a stranger. Yet, I thought love was enough. I held on to that belief, even if it seemed flimsy at times. After we got back, the silence between us continued to expand. It was like an invisible barrier had wedged itself into every interaction. I'd catch him staring into space, lost in his thoughts, and my heart would clench. I finally reached a breaking point and confronted him. I needed to know why he was so distant, why he felt so far even when he was sitting right next to me. He brushed it off at first, saying he was just tired, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeper. I told him, my voice barely a whisper, I feel like you don't love me anymore. He didn't deny it. I could see the struggle in his eyes, the painful hesitation. I have love for you, he said finally, his voice almost gentle. But that wasn't enough, it wasn't what I needed to hear. But you're not in love with me? I asked, barely able to breathe. He looked at me, guilt mingling with sadness in his expression, and nodded. I felt the ground give way beneath me. How could this be happening? The words I had dreaded, had feared, were now my reality. In one breath, the love I'd believed to be unbreakable had dissolved, leaving only a hollow ache. I tried to remind him of all we had, of our plans, our memories, and our dreams. I told him he was my soulmate, the only person I could ever imagine my life with. His response cut deeper than I thought possible. That makes me so sad to hear because I don't think you're mine. Those words echo in my mind, stabbing at me every time I think about them. He didn't just take away the life we'd planned together, he'd stripped me of a future I'd spent years believing in, a future I'd already begun to mourn. I tried to salvage what I could. I suggested counseling, hoping that talking to someone together might help him rediscover his love for me. He agreed, and for a brief while, I thought it was working. The sessions felt like they were pulling us back together, stitching over the wounds that had started forming. But then, just as I began to let myself hope, he told me that he hadn't changed his mind. He still couldn't see a future for us, and he thought it was time to let go. Let go. How was I supposed to let go of everything? Our home, our plans, our life, even our dog, all the things that we'd built together felt like they were being pulled out from under me. The worst part was the realization that I'd have to leave. I couldn't afford to keep the house on my own, and he wanted to sell. The thought of having to move back in with my mom, who lives in a small flat, felt like the final blow. And the dog. God, I love that dog. Losing her too felt unbearably cruel. Every day since then has felt like I'm wading through fog, struggling to find some semblance of who I am without him. I try to keep busy, seeing friends, focusing on my job, going through the motions of life, but I still feel like I'm trapped in a dream, a nightmare, really, that I can't wake up from. When does this feeling go away? When do you start feeling like yourself again, and not like some hollow shell of the person you once were? It's hard because we still have to talk. There are so many loose ends: selling the house, canceling the wedding, figuring out what happens to our dog. Each conversation is like reopening a wound, but he insists on staying friends. He says I'm a special person, and he doesn't want to lose that. But how can I be his friend when my heart still beats for him? How can I pretend to be okay around him when all I want to do is scream that I love him, that I would do anything to make this right? The idea of cutting him off feels both terrifying and necessary. The thought of never speaking to him again, of letting go of 13 years of memories, is paralyzing. I'm scared. Starting over at 27 feels daunting, especially since I've never been with anyone else. The idea of dating again, of being vulnerable with someone else, feels almost impossible. How can I let someone new in when I'm still so deeply entangled with him? Friends have tried to comfort me, saying that I'll find love again, that I'll eventually feel better, but their words feel hollow. I just want to believe them. I want to believe that one day I'll wake up and the thought of him won't make my heart ache. I want to believe that the life I envisioned isn't the only path to happiness. But right now, that's hard to imagine. All I know is that I need to somehow find a way to let him go, even if I don't want to. Because holding on is only hurting me more. The life I dreamed of, the future we planned, may no longer be within reach, but maybe there's a new path for me, one I haven't discovered yet. It's a terrifying thought, but maybe, just maybe, it's the first step toward healing. The pain is still raw, and the future is uncertain, but perhaps somewhere along the way, I'll find a version of happiness that belongs to me alone.
Relevant comment by Reddit users. I think you've made a solid start by recognizing it's healthier to move forward without any relationship with him. That clarity is important, especially since you're dealing with a tricky situation with the house. Since you both own it, selling might be the cleanest way to settle things, either by selling it on the market or buying him out if possible. Without a divorce attorney to handle things, you may have to communicate a bit to finalize details, which I know isn't easy. You could look into working with a realtor who might act as an intermediary, keeping you from needing to interact directly. The reality is, it'll likely feel like you're finally closing this chapter only after everything is divided and finalized. Hang in there, you're strong enough to handle this, and every step forward brings you closer to healing. Comment. I'm in a very similar situation, so I totally get where you're coming from. Just last year, we had one of our best summers, planning a wedding, even considering getting a dog. There were no major issues, but new jobs and other stresses started to pull us apart, almost without us realizing it. Now, I'm struggling with the idea of being with anyone else, and at 32, that's a daunting feeling. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. It sounds like we're both going through something really similar. Comment. Try not to think of it as starting over, it's more like you're stepping into a new chapter. Your life hasn't stopped, it's just changing, and there's room now for new experiences, even if there's a gap. Take it day by day, giving yourself time to heal and rediscover who you are. Value what you've been through, everything you've learned, and know that you can take all the time you need. Once you're ready, go out there. Embrace new adventures, and let yourself explore all that life still has to offer.